John and Tom stand tall, discussing corruption, answering the call. Osceola's whispers, the truth we unveil. With each podcast episode, we set sail. Unsanctioned voices, we won't be ignored. Digging through lies, we strike a chord. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. John and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Politicians trembling, they know we're awake. With facts on our side, we're here to shake. From local elections to making it clear, together we rise, let's spread the fear. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. John and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. Shining the light, the darkness won't last. In Osceola's depths, we're breaking the cast. Unsanctioned truth, we're here for the fight. John and Tom shining through the night. With every debate, we're raising the stakes, taking down villains for justice's sake. So tune in each week, don't miss the show. John and Tom will help you know.
They required it at 2:15 this afternoon.
Thank you. I thought that was what.
Yes, 2:15 this afternoon, which again doesn't violates all the rules. That is not the rules.
I don't know what to tell you. I mean, Cindy,
I don't either, except that this is bullshit.
You were in my office many months ago, and I told you specifically that the RPOF was going to be fighting with the FRA.
You told me they were going to fight. You didn't say we were going to be forced into choosing between membership or leaving the membership. This is a fight between the RPOF and the FRA alleged leadership. It's not got anything to do with me or anybody else. We complied with the request. We complied with the request on November 29th. He did it on the 26th. We complied with the request. Read it.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, I'm not either, but you're on the grievance committee and you unanimously voted 2 days ago. So don't play stupid, because that's also in the letter from today. That's the letter from today, Mark. Well, I'm not either. You can't argue with me because it's anything you would say at this point is a damn lie, just like him.
Yep, and if you were at that REC meeting this past Tuesday, you witnessed, once again, an unbelievable display by that chairman, what was going on at that meeting. But you wouldn't be surprised if you were there 2 years ago, because it was the same shenanigans once again. Wasn't it, John?
You know, 2 years ago, what we did, we witnessed a small, localized, corrupt sham election at the Osceola REC. And 2 years later, many of the members who were getting kicked out now witnessed it, and they watched it. They were just bystanders in the same exact situation 2 years ago. And now 2 years later, now they're getting wrapped up and getting thrown out of the party in a sham election. It just so happens, coincidentally, that the state party is now sanctioning these purges of Republican parties throughout the state. And we're going to talk about that. We have a lot of stuff to talk about on this show. Welcome to Unsanctioned Florida. We have a ton of stuff to talk about. It's mostly going to be GOP. On our theme song, you hear, we're taking down bad guys. We're trying to address corruption. Who would have thought that the number one perpetrator of corruption right now is the GOP, the Florida GOP, and the establishment of the state of Florida, which is purging members left and right, conservative people, MAGA, America First. In fact, the phrase America First is under attack in Florida. If you use the phrase America First in the Republican Party, you become a member, a specifically targeted member for purge. So for purging. It's just incredible what we're witnessing. That was just we got more clips. We got a lot of guests that we're going to bring on tonight from all over the state. And it's just a really important issue. How can we be destroying the party after a historical victory in the elections of 2024? And then right after 2024, it's like a football team winning the Super Bowl and then destroying itself, imploding upon itself the week after the Super Bowl victory. Yeah. It's truly incredible. Well, as I said, welcome to another episode of Unsanctioned Florida. This is our special wrap-up, a continuation of the last show. Here, former school board member John Arguello, my great friend here, citizen Tom Lord, and we have a lot to talk about. We have with us this evening our good friend Jim Trouts, who was with us last week when we talked about what was happening. We have our good friend Melissa Thorne, Rebecca Yingling, Angelica McKinney, Connie Bruni, Co Robbins, Bob Valenta, and they're all going to talk to us about what's happening in their part of the Florida. As we said in the last show, it's happening throughout the state. So we brought people throughout the state to talk about it. There might be some other people that join us later on in the show. We have some
John,
other footage to show.
Want to mention, John, I'm sorry. Yeah, we did invite our local REC chairman, our former chairman, Mark Cross, who is now a state committeeman, onto the show, and his henchman, George Jackow, which both of them declined or didn't respond to the offer to join the show.
So we extended an invitation to every member, George Jackow, to the former chairman, Mark Cross, to John Fields, who's the treasurer, to Jane Smithers, who's the secretary, to Vel, who is a state committee, now the new incoming state committee woman. All of these people were essentially complicit. There were a couple, Greg Fournier. Fortunately, there were a couple of people that had integrity that evening. We're going to talk about them as well. Yeah. Greg Fournier had some integrity. Joanne Colonna, had some integrity that evening, fighting for what was right. The other ones didn't do anything. I'm not so sure that they're all on board with what's going on, but some of them are, and that's very clear. We're going to take a break, say our quick prayer, and then we are going to go get into the show, maybe show some more footage and talk about Osceola, bring in our good friend Jim Trouts, and kind of move from there. Okay, so bear with us for a second. Lord, we are truly grateful to live in this country. Regardless of what we're seeing and witnessing here before us, we know that this country is unlike any other country in the world. It's a country where our rights come from you and where we get to exercise those rights. And that's exactly what we're doing this evening. Bless the show. Bless all the people that are participating, whether it's people that are being purged from the Republican Party or people who are controlling it. We hope that you inspire all parties to come together, do the right thing, and make you proud, and to make this country one that we're all proud to live in and participate in its workings all the time, not just during the elections. In your son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. All right. Well, Tom, what do you got keyed up first? Let's look at some of the footage here before we bring in Jim and show just how bad. Now, listen, this is 2 years ago, everyone was shocked and dismayed at the sight of a deputy sheriff for the first time in history at our Republican Party meeting. Okay. Now, again, the sight of multiple police cars. It looked like a robbery had taken place. And why were they there? I mean, first of all, the OCREC already looks, in some cases, it looks like the scene from the movie Cocoon. This is not a place of violence. This is a place where people come, have a hamburger. They have to take their teeth out to eat the hamburger to begin with. This is not a place of violence. This is not a place where we get together and fight and argue. The only reason that there's any contention at all is because there are people who do the wrong thing. And these are, generally speaking, people who want to see the right thing for our country. They want to see the right thing happen. And so the only time there's any contention is really when somebody's trying to steal an election, like what we just saw on Tuesday. But do you have any clips queued up, or do we bring in Jim?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's check out this one first.
So here's an update now. All these people here who are here, all right, all Republicans, are trying to stay in the building. And if they're not given the right to vote, they're trying to observe the vote. So all the other people, the people like Mark Cross, who's the chairman, is trying to supersede a vote by the executive board of the executive committee and throw everybody out and not allow it for happen. So, of course, in a corrupt place like this, who would you have? This worthless guy right here. This worthless guy right here. This is the type of guy that would supervise. So people like this piece of trash right here, they're allowed in the meeting, and the Republicans who come to all the meetings are not allowed in the meeting. So you have all these Republicans, all the people who volunteered for Trump, all the people who volunteered for the party, people who were in the headquarters of the Republican office, they're trying to kick those people out. And then you have, of course, this piece of cow dung over here who never comes to the last time he was at a meeting, he got booed out. So those are the people that are allowed to be in the meeting. And this is the exact problem with the local parties. They can't be trusted. They don't want to do your will. They don't want to do what's right. They're trying to steal. And if they're stealing local elections, why wouldn't they cooperate with stealing other elections, whether they're federal or otherwise? This is what they.
It absolutely is.
So that's not the clip that I thought we were going to show. That flat cow patty that I was talking about was
the guy who never goes to these meetings, and he walked in like he owned the place. That was like he owned the place.
First, I wouldn't talk about someone like that normally. That is I talk about, this show is all about showing a lack of deference to some of our leaders here who are establishment people, and that's a county commissioner who had not shown up to a meeting. The last time he had showed up to a meeting was when he was running, and he got practically booed out of the place. So now he comes in, he acts like he owns the place. That's it. That's who was controlling the meeting. And that is the person who is controlling this process here locally. It's not Mark. Mark is not a leader. Mark is not a general of any sort. And so certainly these people are being controlled with strings from the party. And that's just a shame. But let's bring up our good friend, Jim Trouts. And Jim can walk us through the expectation here. Jim, one of the reasons we're bringing up Jim is because Jim was our local state supervisor of elections candidate, and he was also the person that the vast majority of the room, 65% of the room in there, were in favor of him being elected the next chairman of the Republican Party, and therefore he had to get kicked out of the party, and he was kicked out. Hi, Jim. How are you this evening?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. Now you're a man of the cloth, I think. So we probably should have had you say the prayer at the beginning of the show.
That's right.
But you're also in the Navy, so I'm not so sure how credible those the man of the cloth title goes there.
Look, I'm just happy I'm not in jail right now. So
yeah, no kidding. All of us, really, we all could have been thrown in jail that evening. Thank God that the deputies were even-handed, and they really awesome. So much chaos, nobody knew what to do.
I think that was the difference, John, was the fact that the board was squabbling amongst themselves, and the deputies didn't know what to do. They were like, do I listen to this one? Do I listen to that one? And they just kind of sat back.
Well, and said, to give a history, there was a board vote. The board came to a consensus that they were going to allow everyone in the room, regardless of what their voting status was, according to them, and they were going to be allowed to witness the vote regardless. At that point, I think what they realized that there were so many people that were in favor of Jim winning the election for chairman that they realized, if we do this, we're going to be, tarred and feathered. So never mind, everybody out, everybody get out. And at that point, it really turned into a pretty chaotic scene. Jim, you are a former member of the FRA. Tell us exactly what happened, how the purge began for you, and what the procedures were that you followed.
Sure. So about a week and a half ago, I got an email from Bill Helmick, who's the executive director of the FRA. And inside that email, It basically said that I am suspected of violating RPOF rule. I forget what the rule was, but frankly, it's a rule I didn't even know about. We've got state committee men that are supposed to let us know when these rule changes happen. I never heard anything about a rule change. We never saw anything. There's no minutes posted about it. I just didn't know. And, I'm a Navy guy, and so I'm used to following rules. I'm used to giving orders. And if I'd have known, I'd have done something earlier. But in any event, I got this email that said that I had to comply. It basically gave me two choices. It said that I either needed to fill out an affidavit, basically, denying any allegiance to the FRA or anything else, or I needed to resign. And so, as distasteful as all that was, first of all, I don't know who had the grievance against me. They didn't give me any 10-day notice. It was like 7 days notice. It was right before.
Did they send the grievance to you? Did you witness a grievance? Did you have the opportunity to review a grievance?
No, I have no idea who it came from or what it was for. It just said that basically I was in violation of some rules. So look, at the end of the day, I was running for chairman. As distasteful as I think it is, and somebody made the comment earlier that this fight is really between the FRA and the RPOF. I don't know why they're targeting individual people, because all we want to do is elect Republican candidates,
Yeah, absolutely.
But in any event, I took the I turned around and I resigned. I submitted a copy of my letter to Bill Helmick. I submitted a copy to the grievance committee, which I was directed to do. By the way, Mark Cross, our OCREC chairman, also chairs the grievance committee for the RPOF.
Wow.
I submitted it to them. And then just to make sure that there was no question about what was going on, I also submitted a copy to our local secretary here in Osceola County. She told me and responded and said that she had forwarded that to our local chairman, Mark Cross, who's the same Mark Cross that chairs the grievance committee that sent me the note to begin with. So I went through all that. I also included a copy of the acknowledgement from the FRA president saying that she acknowledged my resignation. So there was no question as to what I was doing. I was given one of two choices. I took one of those two choices, and so I thought that the issue was all done.
So having Mark Cross as chairman of the grievance committee is like asking a kleptocrat to watch over your jewelry store. Probably not the best idea. Mark Cross, number one, has been kicked out of the party twice. He's been removed from the party twice. The last time that he left the party was under very bad terms. I think there were a lot of allegations made about mishandling of funds and so on. Then he comes back to the party after Trump wins, becomes chairman, and absolutely refuses to allow anyone else to participate. 2 years ago, when they did the same thing where they had these sham elections, and people were saying, where are the bylaws? Where are the bylaws? Because he was refusing to give anybody any minutes, any bylaws, any procedures whatsoever, any kind of paperwork. He was refusing it to provide any kind of documentation for anything. And then he was saying with the mic, I have the rules memorized, so we don't need the bylaws here.
Right.
And it was just the level of ridiculousness. It was like he was over and over, increasing the level of craziness by the minute. It was absolutely a shame. I'm going to bring in Angela McKinney. Angela McKinney is the president of the FRA, and she can tell. So she received.
The Osceola County FRA.
Yep.
Hey guys, thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Absolutely. Angelica, tell me, let me put in here. So you received Jim's resignation from the FRA. Is that correct?
That is correct. And it's very unfortunate to see Jim actually have to leave our chapter. But we understood what is at stake, and I wish actually the RPOF understood that it's not going to take just one person or one organization to be able to change for example, for Osceola to change our county to go red. It's going to take many people to be able to do it. And for us, for FRA, all we want to do is to be able to join forces, to work together, and to accomplish that. The goals for the RPOF or the RECs is to be focused on the precincts, on uh, um, the
Poll
precincts,
watching.
the poll watching, exactly, all these things. And for the FRA, we're involved in the community, we're involved with the legislation, so we complement each other. And then there is other organizations here in Osceola County. So I don't see why they see us as a threat. I mean, we are boots on the ground. Unfortunately, for the past several years, the local party kind of like stays, looks to the other side when the local elections comes, and perhaps that's one of the reasons that we got fed up. Besides that, the last 2 years ago, we went in. They did the same thing. They purged the voter rolls. We tried to elect great people to represent us, and they did the same thing. Now they are doing it again, just a different tactic. But I think is they just don't want anyone to do anything at this point. The way that I see it, they just don't want any organization to be involved within politics to get our conservative Republicans elected.
Well, the funny thing is this is the genesis for the Osceola County FRA, right? And we're going to talk to other counties in a minute. But this was the whole reason that they exist, was because they did a sham election 2 years ago. They disenfranchised many voters. Those voters those were the most active, the hardest working ones. They left and they created the FRA chapter, which has been extremely hard working. It has been, I mean, and I spoke with Lou Marin earlier today, and he was talking about how Osceola was really what turned Osceola County red was all the constant working by the FRA in Osceola County. It wasn't, and that's across the state, right? It was not, I think that Senator Scott sent out a tweet today or a post saying that, congratulations to the Florida GOP for this victory, but it wasn't with the GOP. It was in spite of the GOP that we won, because it was really Trump. It was just Trump's name. A ton of Republicans went out there for Trump. But if you look at the local victories, those local elections and contested races were a disaster across the state. We lost our share. In Osceola County, it was a true disaster. It was a bloodbath for conservatives. The only two conservatives that really got in were people who are establishment people, like Erica Booth, who's quite commonly known as the most liberal. She was the most liberal person on the board while I was there. She voted, and they all had a tie. It was a 4-way tie of who was the most liberal, because they all voted together every single time. And she was supposedly a Republican who was elected on parental rights. And then she turned their back on parents, and she basically voted against parental rights with every single vote that she had the opportunity to vote on. It was so it was like a disaster. But they spent $2 million trying to get her in. And now statewide, I think one of the genesis of the fight between the RPOF and FRA is the fact that the FRA was getting involved in the primaries and hurting the establishment picks. And that led to the RPOF saying, hey, we can't allow our establishment rhinos to get picked off by the FRA in primaries. We need to put a stop to the FRA right now. And then I think the nail in the coffin for any relationship was when we sent a letter. RPOF was 100% on board. Almost everyone was on board with the DeSantis primary against Trump. And the FRA immediately, they sent a memo telling, demanding that the governor get out of the race and focus on his governorship. They endorsed Trump. I think it was like 60-1 or whatever it was to 1. There was only one person, one group, one chapter that did not vote. Actually, it was a delegate that did not vote to endorse Trump out of like 99 delegates that they had. It was a overwhelming response. And I think that's why the governor's not getting involved. Otherwise, the governor perhaps would. And who knows, maybe he will. Maybe the governor will like, he'll do the right thing, and he's going to come in and he's going to, just get rid of Evan Power, which is, he is the leader of the party, the governor after all, and get rid of someone like Evan Power and Mark Cross.
That's what it's
Well,
going to take. That's what it's going to
yes.
take is Governor DeSantis acting on this, because at this point it's ridiculous.
Or
This
Trump.
war with the FRA started about a year ago, where they really sent out these cease and desist letters to FRA members. Nothing happened then. It kind of slowed down while the election was taking place because they wanted this big red wave to come over Florida, and it absolutely did,
Well,
except for in certain
did they really
areas.
want a red wave? I mean, I don't know if
Well,
they wanted one.
they supposedly wanted one. They wanted to keep
Yeah.
their control over the state.
Right.
And we see that they have, except for in places where they know they have it on lock, like here in Osceola County, where they're working hand in hand with the Democrats. So
listen, at the end of the day, the reality is their goal is to make sure that the state goes red, and the state did go red. And if that means that you have to sacrifice a few lambs like Osceola County, Orange County, Hillsborough, or whatever it might be, well, then so be it. Those guys have accomplished what they want to do at the state level. And I guess from a political sense, that makes sense. But when you talk about the fact that all politics are local and we're getting slaughtered at the local level, I'm glad that they all won. I'm glad that Mark looks good. I'm glad that he got his place on CNN of all places.
Well, here's the funny thing. Oh, I'm glad that you mentioned
surprising,
that. Okay?
yeah.
And then we're going to move on to another county here. But Mark, in that CNN interview, declares that he's going to hand over the reins to a Puerto Rican at that point in time. Now, the funny thing is that doesn't affect, I don't care. But what I'm saying is that he's telling you that he's got a plan to hand it over. But it's not Mark's responsibility to hand it over. It's his job to oversee an election for leadership of the party. And this tells you that he already had someone in mind, that he had already rigged the election, because that was several weeks before the election took place. So
Correct. So
here he is telling you.
If I can say something, okay, so because you keep hearing this idea that Osceola County we got a red wave.
No.
We did not. We moved actually 4 seats to the left, but that's where all these grassroots organizations come in. We come in to try to change that, but then they don't want us now. They don't want us to be able to do that, and I believe that's one of the reasons. They wanna see organizations like FRA to go away, because we're not an online organization. We are door knocking, making phone calls. We doing call to actions when the legislation session comes, and all that. But if I can add something on regards to the governor, you always hear him talking about that his administration is going to hold all elected officials accountable, or anyone accountable that is not doing the right thing. So why we, the voters, were not allowed to hold him accountable to what he promised, that he was to be the governor of the state of Florida when we helped him get reelected. So the fact that there is some retribution, if there is if this is what it is, some type of retribution coming from the party, from maybe he's upset, maybe that's why he hasn't gotten involved and say, hey, just knock it off. I don't know, but you cannot say one person can hold accountable the elected officials, but we are not allowed to do that, so it's kind of like the double standard.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Listen, both of you, please stay with us for the end of the show wrap up, where we're going to get everybody together and talk about solutions and ways forward. Let's go to Melissa Thorne. Let me pull you guys down here. Oops.
That was me.
There you go. Yeah. So, Melissa, hi. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your situation in Volusia and your history with the FRA, and what happened with you guys?
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for having me this evening. Yes, I am in Volusia County, one of the most corrupt REC counties, I would say, in the entire state. Our chair Deering is actually being sued currently right now. He will be served any single day from a member of the REC because of racial discrimination. So,
Wow.
and that's just a little taste. the entire REC is so corrupt. He won't let anybody speak at the meetings. He won't allow anybody to say a word, or even and of course he holds the gavel and the microphone so that nobody can. It's just ridiculous to speak. And like you said, they do have police presence too at our REC meetings at $500 a pop. So it's
Wow.
interesting
Wow.
how much money they're putting out for these meetings, and they do it for intimidation tactics. So
Well, I
what
know our chairman, he also holds on to the mic. I think he sleeps with the mic at night, puts it in a safe under his pillow. I don't know. But he certainly doesn't allow anybody to speak.
He's the
Go on,
last
sorry to
person
interrupt
who
you.
should be on a mic anyway, because he sounds so like weak. Like it puts you to sleep when you hear him. It's just like, oh,
Yeah.
he's terrible.
Go on, Melissa. So tell us about this situation.
Yeah, and so now we also have been building our grassroots ranks. I would say America First, MAGA, all the way, 110%, and mainly maybe from the FRA, some from United Patriots, people who have been sick and tired of what's been happening with our government, and so they've been joining the party, joining our ranks, and we've been trying to take over our REC. And let me tell you, same thing happened with your previous guest. I got a grievance filed on November 22nd. It was sent to me from Bill Heimlich, and didn't know who sent the grievance, didn't tell me what the grievance was about, just said that I was in violation. It's Rule 22 that they passed in May, and Section 1A and 2A. And it just basically says that I'm in violation because I belong to another organization that does not fall under the purview of the RPOF and doesn't follow the rules under the big ass of the elephant. And so basically that's what the grievance was about from Bill. So the 26th, I get an email from Chair Deering from my REC saying that I'm out. I'm out of the REC. So no, not telling me why, not giving me any information, not saying, oh, you need to explain yourself, nothing. I'm like, okay, this is interesting. So the grievance did come with with an affidavit, and it did say at the bottom of the grievance that I can write back with the information saying whether or not I am a member. If I'm not a member or I am a member, provide the information, which I did. So I responded to Bill Heimlich with all of that information, and I was an FRA member. But when that rule came out in May, I canceled my membership. I resigned because I was running. I filed the very next day to run for state committee woman for my REC, and I didn't want to be in violation of the rules. Now, I didn't get the rules. By the way, I didn't get the rules from my REC. No, I didn't get the rules from them. We had to search it out. We were actually watching all of the rules month by month to make sure, because we knew that they were playing games, and they've been playing games for years now. So it's like you just had to keep an eye on them. So that's what we were doing. That's the only reason why we knew about the rule. So I responded to Heimlich on the 25th. I resigned from my FRA position on the 12th. And then when I sent back my reply to Heimlich, I said that I requested an extension, and several of us requested an extension because it was right before Thanksgiving holiday. So they wanted it within 10 days. 10 days would have fallen on the weekend right during the holiday. So like, come on, what are you doing, really? So we asked for an extension, and he granted it to us. So we actually got an extension until January 1st. Meanwhile, a membership, a meeting notice went out, which I did not receive, and several of us didn't receive. I would bet about nearly half. There's about 450 members of our REC. about half of that, those people didn't receive the meeting notice. So they're trying to keep us out. And now that there's this extension from Bill, I don't think he has any grounds to do anything. So it's going to be really interesting.
I don't think that they have the intention to find anybody not guilty of this. First of all, like, Jim makes a point here on our chat that at what point did we suspend our rights under the First Amendment? The fact is that, number one, we shouldn't have to sign an affidavit that says that we admit fault for joining an organization that is not doing anything wrong. It's a ridiculous affidavit. And I'll tell you what, this is just me. I'm not going to sign the affidavit. I haven't even seen a grievance. Well, I'm going to admit guilt to a grievance that I haven't even seen. We're not in China. It's incredible that he would do this. Let me welcome Michelle Pazzi, who joined us late. Michelle, just hang in there. We'll get to everyone down there on the list. This is really incredible, the fact that, so it's not just us. So here's now Volusia, right? Osceola, we have Volusia. All right, we're going to have a whole bunch of counties. We saw what happened in Manatee, where they shut down they did win, right? Here's the bottom line. If you do win, if you did take over your REC, then they will shut it down. And I'm not so sure that's a bad idea. If you guys if you can't be fair, you'd rather shut it down than allow real MAGA, America First. By the way, if you use the phrase America First, apparently at RPOF, that's like saying Beetlejuice 3 times. You're not allowed to say America First. So if you say America First at your chapter, there you get put on a targeted list. Mm-hmm. And we know that they're making those lists because we have witnesses of our own chairman in Osceola County who saw the making of that list and said, man, this is wrong. So there's a lot of things. Not everybody's on board with what they're doing. Not everybody has the integrity to fight over it, right? Some people are willing to watch. I don't think that I could ever watch somebody drown and just walk away like nothing's happening. And that's exactly what's happening. In order to be qualified to become an REC chair in some cases, you have to have a zero amount, not even a trace element of integrity in order to do what the GOP is telling you to do. It's just a shame. Melissa, stay with us. We're going to move on to a different county and then we'll get back to you. Okay. So hang in there. All right. We're going to bring on Rebecca Yingling here. Rebecca, you're from Pasco. You were not an FRA member. You do not have an FRA chapter in Pasco. Tell us what's going on in your REC.
Our REC, we had a lot of, shall we call it grassroots, individuals who had gotten involved in the last few years, and the infighting began. Our rec, we have a new rec chair. The rec chair we had before was obviously a puppet for the establishment. Other grassroots groups did start, and some of those members that were members from the rec back in the primary in August of this past primary were supporting NPA candidates, which is a violation of the oath. I was not one of those people. So the outcome of that resulted in an NPA candidate beating an establishment. I'm in an extremely red county. We actually have more registered NPA voters than we have Democrats. So it's Republican, NPA, and then Democrats. So we had a woman that was in school board, I believe it was her going for her 4th term, and she was the establishment choice. She was, your typical Rhino school board member, didn't really do much of anything but rubber stamp everything.
She sounds a lot like our Rhino school board member here in Osceola County.
See, it's just how it is, right? So, but I think what sent a shot through Pasco County was their establishment person lost.
No.
Yeah.
So
that'll do it. That'll bring a reaction from the GOP in Tallahassee.
So DeSantis even came in and endorsed this woman, right? And all the guns are put out. But here's the problem: she did such a horrible job, and more people showed up and were calling her out at all ends. But the person that ran against her was a woke. She's part of the Florida Freedom Read Project. She works with the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Wow.
Gun owners are on the list, put on the heat map. All these, conservative organizations, liberty organizations. And she tried to say, oh, no, I'm just like you. And I'm like, you're not like me. We're not the same. And so I wasn't trying to help the incumbent by any means, but it was really the lesser of two evils, right?
And is that why you got? Is that why? I mean, you were purged?
I was not purged. I have not been purged yet. You know,
Uh-huh.
I'm kind of waiting.
But you said America first, didn't you? That might be the end of
Oh,
your.
I see. American First, yeah. Well, I know. So we had a leadership change at our RAC. So our RAC chair, they hated giving me the microphone there too, because when your local politicians come in to give their sunshine and rainbow speech of how they've done nothing or they can't do anything because it's just not set up that way. You know, they give excuses.
That's so not true. Yeah.
Don't you love that? And then you get the microphone. They really hated giving me the microphone, but I did get it. But then they took it back. But that's fine. I got my question out. But a lot of times I would get people thinking in the room. I think our rec is probably 40%, you know, true conservatives that are awake. I think we probably have about 30% who are just not, they're just oblivious. They just think everything's still sunshine and rainbows. And then you have the establishment people. But our new rec chair, was just like yours, right? Wasn't really involved in the party. He ran for county commissioner in 2022. And I ride in integrity. John, the big thing is you said integrity and strings, puppets, right? Those are what we're fighting, right? We want people in the party with integrity that hold true to the core values. And we don't want puppets that are just going to do what the establishment, the campaign donors, you know, the developers, especially here in Florida, it's growing, want them to do. So this gentleman, when I first met him, I'd never met him before in 2021. He said, "Oh yeah, and I took out $100,000 loan to run for this campaign and didn't tell my wife about it."
Oh wow.
So
That's not
his campaign
He's not
kicked
a
off.
marriage counselor, right?
Yeah, I said, "Well, let's go check it out." You know, meet a few friends. We're like, "Oh, we'll go to his campaign kickoff, check him out." That was the start of his campaign kickoff, and I was just like, I was taken back. I'm like, wow. So after I went up to him, I said, well, so you took out $100,000 loan to run for county commissioner without telling your wife. He's like, yeah, but she's fine with it now. And I said, well, that's interesting because if you're county commissioner, what are you going to do behind our backs if you would do that to your own wife?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I just, look, what comes here comes out here. You know,
I mean, a lot of our county leadership are swingers, so they do everything in front of their wives anyways.
See?
They're
It's
shameless
true.
over here
It's
in
true.
Osceola County. Unfortunately,
So
it's, you know.
integrity? If you're going to lie to your wife and you're running your campaign saying, hey, I lied to my wife, what? You've lost any integrity with me. Like, you're just telling everybody I have no integrity. So he's our new rec chair, even though he's never really been at any rec meetings. He likes to throw money around in different little groups here and there. I don't know if it was still from his loan or not, but I think.
But he's approved by the party then, so he's a sanctioned. He was, you know, basically the anointed person from the Tallahassee to ascend to the throne, so to speak.
He's a sanctioned puppet. I mean, He absolutely is. So, you know, I think that our POF doesn't want any other groups started because it's all about power control, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you're not, and if they, like what they did with the FRA, it just blows my mind what they've done to everybody. And I'm kind of sitting back going, so they're just going to make up stuff and find stuff, or they're going to make rules, right? Which they don't really have to. And look how they shut down the Manatee Rec. I'm just still like,
Yeah,
you know,
it's unbelievable.
so
It's absolutely unbelievable.
What does that tell us? What message did that send to us? We're having an impact, right?
Yeah.
Well, absolutely, we're having an impact because, like I said, I think that we hurt their establishment candidates. They didn't like it. They didn't like the memos. They didn't like people paying attention. They didn't like the fact that the NRA had a convention which had 1,000 people at it or something with hundreds of delegates who are voting to endorse Trump right before the party, and the party couldn't do anything because, I mean, here's the reality is the party does endorse candidates in advance in the primaries, but they do it by giving money through PACs and through dark money so that they can say, oh, our hands were off. But I've listened to those lies firsthand before, and they've never stopped. They did it here, and they help people lose races. And I'm sure, if we looked, they probably cause more losses of Republican candidates than they do wins. It leads to more losses than wins, and it's a lot of it is done through that. There's a dirtbag in on the West Coast named Anthony Pedicini who has his hands in so many dark things. Everybody knows about him, right? People
Not
mention the name.
everybody, right?
Yeah,
Not
that is.
everybody.
Yeah,
But we
that
know
is
that-
like Beetlejuice. Saying his name is
Right.
like Beetlejuice. He'll pop up out of a toilet somewhere if you say his name 3 times, and it's really just a shame. And they're proud of it. They're proud of it. They love it. They love the fact that he's a guy. A hatchet man. He's proud of it. I don't know how he lives with himself, but it's absolutely.
And this is a
horrendous.
guy who emulates Democrats. He is part of the LGBTQ agenda.
Activist,
He hangs
yeah.
out with the gay Tampa mayor. We know all about
Who's a
Anthony
Democrat.
Pedicini.
Even worse, she's a Democrat, and he helped her get elected. So he helps Democrats. He helps a Democrat here. He helped in Osceola County. He helped Democrats win. And those are the only 2 types of candidates that he helps.
And that's not even the worst part. Like Jim said in the chat, our REC chairman actually endorsed 2 Democrats in the 2022 election cycle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Came out and endorsed them.
Yeah,
And he got
Rebecca.
in. Why? Because they kicked. It seemed like the majority. I did see, like in your video, John. Of
Yeah.
there was only a few people left in on that side. You could see the majority just in the video alone. It speaks volumes. The majority are on the other side. You could clearly see what they're doing there. I mean, and we're just going to do it and get away with it, and but they don't realize we're not going away. It's our party. We're taking it back. You know what I mean? That's what I say.
Absolutely.
I'm glad you could see that in the video, Rebecca, because absolutely there was more people standing being kept from coming inside the building than there was actually sitting at those tables. It was shocking.
And there were still people outside who hadn't come in yet.
Yeah.
There were still people outside. So there was a lot of people. I would say 65%. Now, listen, it's very important for everybody to realize that the GOP doesn't care how many people leave. They prefer it to be a small, controllable group than a large group with impact or weight or power or influence. They don't want influence, at the satellite, location. They want all the power in Tallahassee.
Well,
and that's why they're so bad.
They've lost recs, right? Like
Yes.
I know of a rec that they lost. They did it all by the books. They got together, they went in, and they took their rec back to what the majority of the people wanted and what the conservative, what the true values of the Republican Party are.
Yeah.
So they're afraid, right? It only takes a few people. It really does, just to wake people up. So just keep spreading. And your videos, this exposure, we need to expose what's going on with the RPOF in Florida. It's absolutely, it's
shameless. They're shameless. Yeah. They're shameless. Okay, Rebecca, stay with us. We're going to hang on. We're going to move on to another county, and we'll be right back with you. Hey, Connie, how are you?
Howdy.
Good.
I'm in Sarasota County.
Hi, how are you? FRA. So you are a member of the FRA in Sarasota. Tell us what happened in Sarasota. You guys had elections recently, correct? Or you have them coming up next week?
No, our elections are next Thursday. I am the president of the Sarasota RAC chapter, formed in 2023 as a result, as you were suggesting, of some sham elections that were taking place at both our REC and some of the RPOF chartered clubs. They actually did this same thing by disenfranchising long-term members, retroactively changed their bylaws. I mean, just totally illegal sham behaviors. And so that really gave impetus to folks saying, we want an alternative that is not under the thumb of the Republican Party of Florida. We searched out and found the Republican Assembly, reached out to Lou, had him come and make the presentation, and we chose to take the charter that first night in February of 23. We hoped to have 20 people. We had 65 the first night. Wow. We've grown to over 200 members. We've helped pass state legislation. One of our members actually helped write the anti-grooming bill, which ended up being HB 1545. We are the second state, actually the very first state, to define exploiting children for the purpose of sexual gratification, and not only define it, but also put in place penalties for it. And nobody else had that. So that's something we are very proud of. So we've really had, when you talk about having an impact, those are the things that we wanted to do. We have taught our members how to use GMRS radios so that during hurricanes, we can continue to communicate. We can help the community. We can help figure out what's going on. We can communicate with EOC. I mean, I have goosebumps because we're doing it. We're doing the things that need to get done that Republicans should be doing. We also did do red tents and had a voter guide, which is why they're so angry with me. We raised the money and put out our own voter guide with our name on it, not with the party's name. And that made everybody very, very mad. One of the people who serves on the RPOF Rules Committee is our REC chair, Jack Brill. So when I look at this picture, I say, this is incest. There is no nicer way for me to use the words. It is political incest. All of these people who benefit each other, including Mr. Pedicini, who was paid by the Sarasota REC a whole boatload of money in this last election cycle and in 2022, they all are serving on all of these different committees, like Mr. Cross, like Mr. Power, like, all of them. So I use the word incest. That is number one. People need to say it's incest. It's not appropriate. This is not they call themselves a tribunal. It is not an objective tribunal. And therefore I believe it's an abuse of power. So I'm saying that, and I really want to educate people to that. I'm not a lawyer. I want to make sure you understand that. I am not a lawyer, so I'm not giving you legal advice. However, I did find, and here's the document, these are the grievance committee's procedures. Grievance committee's procedures. I emailed these to you, John, so you have them. Feel free to share them far and wide as far as I'm concerned, because if you look at what was received by, and my husband received one of these grievances, these alleged grievances, let's make sure we call it that, saying, you're in violation of Rule 1A2. Okay? And it lists what that rule is. However, no grievance, no evidence, no nothing. And the requirement, this was received, as the other lady explained, on the 22nd, and the requirement that you respond no later than November 29th. There it is in writing. Take my word for it.
Yeah.
You don't take my word for it. Okay, if you look at their own rules, here are their rules again. Ta-da. Let's see. Their own rules on the grievance procedures. Item number 7. Upon referral of a grievance to the committee, the chair of the committee shall request within 10 days, unless an extension is granted, a response from the respondent. 10 days. They gave these people 7 days, and 2 of those days were state and federal holidays. No one would find that to be a reasonable circumstance. No one. They violated their own stinking rules. They talked to you, Mr. Cross, oh, it's just about the rules. It's just about the rules. BS. Sorry, calling BS on that. I'm from a farm family in California, and you got to put on some thigh-high boots to get through that level of BS. Let me tell you. So, and it's based on their own document. You don't have to take my word for it. The multiple police cars. Oh gosh, what happened? Are you serious?
You're there. We're good.
You're still
fine.
there, Connie.
We're still there, Connie. We got you.
Connie, let me ask you a question. Did you receive that grievance by email and snail mail?
Oh, did we lose Connie? She knew.
Yeah,
she knew ahead of us that she had frozen.
Yeah,
okay, so we'll bring Connie down. So we'll come back to Connie. That was Sarasota. There's a lot of people that called me from Sarasota with different concerns. This was about to get the heated part of the discussion where they're talking about the cops and so on. So hopefully we'll get her back here soon. Let's go here.
Jim brought this up in the chat, and it's exactly true. Our grievance letters, the snail mail versions, were not mailed from Tallahassee. They were mailed locally.
Okay, so a lot of these letters, I would imagine that the same thing in Osceola happened everywhere else, where the letters were actually mailed locally, and where Evan Powers came down to he passed down the memo that said, I want a list of all the people that you suspect of being FRA members because we want them out, or anybody else that you think is a troublemaker. We're going to do one quick purge, one Soviet style purge, and get rid of everybody at the same time. I think that's what they did. And because Mark Cross, he left some people that were in the FRA in the organization, and he didn't kick them out, right?
Yeah, and some of these letters went out to people that had nothing to do with the FRA.
Exactly, and they had nothing to do with the FRA. And George Jackow admitted to looking at YouTube videos in order to find people who had made an appearance in a YouTube video, and that's how to use. That's not evidence. And was he the one that sent the grievance? Nobody knows because nobody saw it. So it was absolutely terrible. Any grievance. Bob, you're from Lee and you are an FRA member. Tell us what's going on down in Lee County.
Yes, sir. Lee County is maybe a little bit different than most counties. A couple of years ago, we actually flipped our board and replaced the Rhinos with an America First board. Nice. However, within a month or two, as we passed the ban the jab resolution at the first meeting, the paper ballot, the second meeting, the CBDC resolution, eventually a resolution, the legislature for SB 7050. Our America First board got slapped, I guess, and became the new Rhinos.
Wow. So they were America First people, personalities, and then RPOF got a grip on them and they changed.
I would say so, yes.
Okay.
And it began in the first month. It literally began in the first month.
Yeah.
So, I wish I was here under better circumstances. Yeah, I know.
We all do. Yeah.
The RPOF should be opposition to the Democrats, not controlled opposition. Yeah. We should be protecting the borders, the ballots, and our bodies, banning the bioweapon, stuff like that. But instead, we're bickering. It's devolved so much that now we have brown shirts who run up and down the aisles and they hold the microphones, and if they want you to stop talking, they yank the microphone from you.
So are you guys receiving any purges? Have members of your organization been purged as well?
I have been, and so 7 people got the grievance.
Mm-hmm.
One of whom was the newly elected state committee man who's never been a member of the assembly. Wow. But we endorsed him. But we endorsed him in the primary because we can do that. And they didn't.
So your state committee man is being purged, even though he won an election to get his seat.
I'm not even grievance.
Okay, he got a grievance letter.
He did not get a suspension, but the other 6 of us did. And most of those 6, their memberships have expired. They are no longer members. So it's an interesting situation.
Absolutely.
Do you know how many members of the FRA there are in Lee? How big is the group there?
Well, I would know because I'm the president. So, yeah, we had just under 50 members.
So here's the thing: these are not inconsequential groups. We have 200 people in Sarasota. We have more than 50 people here in Osceola. You have 50 members there in Lee County. These are large groups, and you have to ask the question. The RPOF should be asking itself, instead of purging these people, why are they attracted to another organization? What is it that we're doing that we're losing these members? Could we bring them in? So what they chose to do is you will either bend the knee or you're going to get kicked out and not have an association with us. And I think that this is a terrible, and horrendous leadership demonstrated by the RPOF and by Evan Power and Bill Helmick. I mean, I don't know. There's no man up there that's going to say, hey, enough is enough. They're just all going along with it. It's pretty much like what we're seeing in DC. Nobody has the integrity to do the right thing. Bob, give us a minute. We're going to go to Michelle Pazzi, and then we'll get back to you. Okay, we'll bring you back in.
Yeah.
Michelle, are you there? There you are. Hi, Michelle.
Okay,
How are you?
hello.
Give me
I'm
good,
good.
good.
I'm
Why
in
don't you tell us
transit,
what
but
county you're
I can
from?
hear you guys.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Yes,
Tell us what county you're
I'm
from
with
and what's going on in your county.
awesome. I'm with Connie Bruni in Sarasota County, who you just spoke with. I
Yep.
actually was supposed to be running for REC chair here in the next few days, next Thursday. But I am currently suspended because I am also somebody who's with the Republican Assembly. So what I did when I first got my my notification is I decided to resign from the Republican Assembly because I'm running for REC chair, and I thought, you know what, play the long game, right?
Yep.
So I did what I needed to do. I sent a letter with my resignation, and I forwarded it to the Republican Party of Florida as they asked. Then I got a second email that says, no, sorry, we want an affidavit now. And I've teetered around with that, you know, because again, I want to run for REC chair. I'm not sure I have the votes, but I would love the floor time to be able to just let people know what's happening
Wow,
within our REC. So I
that is a
haven't filled out
common
the
story.
affidavit
Yeah.
yet, but yeah, it is. You know, this is what I think is interesting listening to what everybody is saying is that, in all honesty, if somebody wanted to be a George Bush Republican, a Liz Cheney Republican, I don't have an issue with you. I wouldn't tell you you couldn't be a member of the Republican Party of Florida.
Yep.
We're supposed to be a Big Ten. I'm going to hold you accountable for it. I'm going to make sure that your people aren't necessarily elected. I'm going to hustle on the grassroots level, but I'm not here to tell you who can and can't join the party. And what we're seeing now is a complete totalitarian attitude in Tallahassee. It's been there for a while, but like everything else, when it festers and when it starts to expose itself, this is our chance to pounce. And so what we're doing now is we're working on a media blitz to really get every part, every facet of conservative media to look at Florida. You know, Trump is at a 50,000 foot view. And what gets the attention of planes passing over by? It is smoke
Fire.
signals. We are going to send a loud smoke signal working with marketing, conservative media, social media. You've got people like Bannon's War Room that we're working with and talking to now to be able to push this to the next level so that a simple phone call can be made to Evan Power to let him know he doesn't have as much power.
I mean, that is the shame, right? That's exactly right. I'm not sure that he wanted to attract the fire. He wanted to calm everything down and make his establishment bosses happy. The bottom line with Evan Power is that I don't think that this is his idea. Evan Power is not a general. Evan Power is like a janitor who fell into the seat, and through crazy means, so he's not like the acting CEO. They just don't want to take the guy with the broom out of the chair. I think it's only a matter of time. The reason that they might have left him there is specifically to do this so that nobody else has to take the fall for it. They get rid of Evan Power and then they hire a real leader to continue with the party after this dirty deed is done. So, I mean, there's a lot of speculation going on about how long Evan Power is going to last. But the fact is, it doesn't matter how many endorsements he gets from people. Everybody knows that Evan Power not only did not come up with the idea, not only is not the one in charge of kicking the FRA out or causing this war, not the one who's going to be there long term. So I think that you're 100% right. It all comes down to making that happen as quickly as possible and then getting to the real boss.
Yes, and actually, you know, and we saw this play out in Hillsborough County, just a little north of us, right? Chad Chronister, the supposed constitutional sheriff who actually arrested Rodney Howard Brown for doing service during COVID. But what happened? Your Laura Loomers, your Benny Johnsons, who all have homes right here in the state of Florida, all stood up and said, excuse me, Mr. Trump, do you understand what you're doing here? This man cannot be the one. Chris Ann Hall. And what happens is that you get the attention of the right people. This is, whether he is the one that came up with this or not, this is 100% owned by Evan Power. It's owned by people currently within the grievance committees, even though it's a top secret. It's like a ghost.
Absolutely.
You don't know who they are. We have to change this by being very, very loud, by being orderly, but being loud. And guys, from what I hear in this call, we are the people to do it. So unfortunately, our job didn't end on November 5th. I think it just got started, really.
Yeah,
I hear 100% right, and I love how you put it. Let's bring everybody back in here, and let's talk about the year going forward. The biggest concern that I have is that people accept this, and there's no reason to accept this if we don't continue to fight, if we don't continue to be loud and make sure that he pays the consequences for doing this to Republicans, you point out a great example, Michelle, the fact that this guy, this sheriff, I don't even want to mention his name, and Trump immediately abandoned him. He said he didn't pull out, I pulled him out.
Yeah.
And that's right. Trump pulled him out. Oh, you're attacking my people. You're out. I'm not gonna. You're not worth fighting over. All right. I want the good guys. And at some point, I would hope that Trump is going to see the fire out here in Florida and be like, "Hey, Ron, what the hell is happening down in Florida?" And Ron's going to say, "Oh, well, I don't know. You're being considered for DOD potentially if Pete doesn't go through, but you can't handle your own RPOF here from kicking all my people out. You're allowing my people to be sacrificed. I mean, what's going on down here?" And I know for a fact that Trump did not sanction this. This might be sanctioned in the governor's office. It might be sanctioned by a whole bunch of legislators, Danny Perez and Ben Albritton, but it's certainly not sanctioned. Most importantly, I think it is sanctioned by the lobbying teams, people like Ramba in Tallahassee, but it's not sanctioned by Trump. And that's who we need to get involved in this, including, I think, Senator Scott, because Senator Scott just tweeted recently an endorsement of Evan Power, saying congratulations to Evan Power for turning the state red. But Evan Power didn't have anything to do with that. It was the people in this room right here, the people who watch us, the people who are on our friends list on Facebook who turned the state that hard red. It's the people who will go to these FRA meetings who are fervent supporters of America First candidates. And it's the GOP who watered down our red wave locally in all of our places, especially in contentious counties. Orange County was a disaster. Osceola County was a disaster. And this is the fault. Sarasota, a local disaster. So why did this happen? I say that we set the place on fire. Let's let Trump see it. Let's call for Evan Powers' resignation. Evan Powers, I know that you're watching because you're sending me Facebook messages telling me not to talk about this stuff, but go to hell, Evan Power. In fact, Evan Power's watching, and so is Bill Helmick, and they're wondering how many people are supporting us. But listen, we're not going to stop. Here's the bottom line. Let me send this direct message to Evan Power. Evan, there are some people who don't give a damn about being friends with the people in the legislature or your fancy fundraising parties. I have zero interest in that. I couldn't care any less. What I care about is my country that I fought for in Afghanistan. I care about my family having a future, my two youngest kids having a future where they can go to college and not be convinced to change their genders. I know it wouldn't happen with them, but it happens to kids who don't have strong families. I care about an economy that's not going to crash because we're borrowing hand over fist, leveraging their futures. And the fact is that Florida is the farm team. As we see, Trump is drafting all of these people throughout our state to go to the federal government, and Evan Power and the Florida GOP is creating monsters, not heroes, in the GOP. And as long as we allow these establishment pricks to take control of our state, then we're all going to suffer the consequences. Our families are going to suffer the consequences. And that's why we have so many rhinos in so many local seats. We're tired of it. Not just us. The hundreds of people that are watching live on all of these social media channels are tired of it. And I know that we're going to do something about this. I really appreciate all of you coming down. Let's start the campaign now. Remove Evan Power from his seat. Let's make the show a force. Let's demonstrate that we and get as many people as we can involved. Send your letters. Send your complaints to Evan Power. As a matter of fact, I have his phone number right here, and let me give it to you guys.
Let's give him a call, John. Let's give him a call.
You know what? That's an even better idea.
Let's give him a call.
That's an even better idea. Let me dial him up. I know that you're watching, so don't try to send me to voicemail, Evan. Let's get him on the phone. Let's leave him a little voicemail here, if nothing else, since he's probably gonna. Hey Siri, dial 954-257-0544.
Say it again, please. Say it again.
Oops, that's the wrong number. Hey Siri, dial 850-519-1062.
Oh. Love this. Love it.
Evan, I know that you're watching. If you want to send it to voicemail, just do it quickly so we don't have to
Your
listen to
call
all the
has been
rings.
forwarded to
Thank you.
voicemail. The person you're trying to reach is not available. At the tone, please record your message.
You have
When
reached
you
the
have finished
Democrat,
recording,
Hattie.
you may hang up.
Chairman Evan Powers, this is John Arguello with Unsanctioned Florida, and we have a lot of concerns about what's going on at the Florida GOP. There's a lot of patriots, America First patriots. I know that you hate that phrase, but there's a lot of America First patriots here on the line who want to hear from you. We want to know exactly why you're doing this. We know it has nothing to do. There's no reason for you to be attacking the Republican members of the party, the conservative members of the Republican Party throughout Florida, in order to attack the FRA. You can attack the FRA without attacking the members. And so we want a justification for what you're doing. We want to see these grievances. We want justice. We want transparency throughout our state. We want to have transparent elections at each REC. And we want chairmen with integrity, including at the state level. So we all recommend, sir, that you resign from office, that Bill Helmick resign from his office, and that we start afresh and give this state the reputation that it deserves in a red country. Thank you,
Amen.
sir. John Arguello, look forward to speaking to you real soon.
Hey, John,
Bye-bye.
let me just say something real quick. I
Yeah.
think one of the things that personally ticks me off the most is, I spent more than 20 years in the Navy. I missed a lot of births, a lot of vacations, a lot of Thanksgivings and Christmases. So we all have some fundamental rights. And for this clown show or anybody else to tell me who I can hang out with, where I can
Ridiculous.
go, or what groups I can belong to is absolutely disgusting to me. And there's a lot of people just like you and me and others that fought for that right. And here we are fighting again. And we got a bunch of political clown shows telling us what we can and can't do. I'm over it.
John,
I
I'm
think
so
that's-
sorry that I went off before. This is Connie Bruni again from Sarasota. I don't know if you mentioned the fact that this whole issue of who owns the name Republican was adjudicated in 1999. This is settled law. This was settled by the Fourth Circuit here in the state of Florida. And I just want to read you directly from the case. This is an actual quote. Again, don't have to take my word for it. Here's the paperwork. I don't do what they do. Here, we're going to send you a grievance, but you can't look at the grievance. Kind of like Nancy Pelosi. Okay? Ooh! You just have to go before you can know it. You have to sign their stupid affidavit before you can see it. No. They're asking you to commit perjury. Don't do it. This says, plaintiffs, the Republican Party of Duval County and the Republican Party of Florida have not presented evidence that defendants, blah, 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 have violated section, blah, blah, blah. And it does, and that it does not appear the persons who have been alleged to be Republican leaders claim to be acting on or behalf of the Republican Party of Duval County, Florida, or the Republican Party of Florida. The identification as individuals as Republicans does not infringe on the party name.
Wow. Well, there you have it.
Folks, that's documented.
Yeah.
The question is, if they had a case, they would have sued the FRA and they would have won in court.
Correct.
But they didn't
No, they would
because
not
they
win
did
in
not
court.
have a
They know they
case.
can't win.
They can't do it.
Yeah.
And they're in this, stalemate. They figure, well, we'll just make them lose all their members. It's cheap. We don't have to pay
Correct.
for lawyers. We don't have the risk. So let's just attack the members. But that's not what a leader does. And it demonstrates that Evan Power is as weak of a leader as his lack of a chin suggests. This man should not be leading the Florida
I
party.
think it's actually worse, John, and that is this. It's been explained to me, and I'm not a lawyer, as I said earlier, but it has been explained to me that because they have sent it by email and they are trying to entice or demand that people sign this affidavit, that this actually could rise to criminal fraud. It's wire fraud. And therefore, it could be very serious because they continue to refuse to show the grievance and or any relevant evidence. And there is no reasonable thinking person that would find that to be acceptable.
Well, I'm not a lawyer either, and I would like to hear a lawyer's opinion on whether or not that, because this is a private entity, right? The GOP is not a government entity. It is a private entity. and it is controlled by board members, right? And so
No,
I wonder
I
if
disagree with
no.
you. I
Okay, go ahead.
disagree
Correct me,
because
please.
the party is formed and allowed by state statute. It does not exist without the support of state statute. So it is a quasi-governmental entity. It is not just, it's not a private country club. And the wording that they use is the very wording that was used for decades to keep people of color and women and others out of private country clubs, and nobody should be accepting it. Nobody.
Wow.
Now I'm on my road.
Well, I mean,
And the
I'm not so
party
sure that
takes
it's not
the
merited.
filing fees.
Yeah,
Pardon me?
that's another issue. Absolutely.
Party's collecting the filing fees.
So
Correct.
the party
And
collects
it's
our
wrong.
fees, and then they use it to elect establishment candidates locally and otherwise. It's
volume.
absolutely incredible. We saw it here. Osceola County, I think, is the worst example because even though you guys all, it sounds like you all have corrupt RECs.
Correct.
Our county may be the worst because number one, it is a uniparty. It's a Republican Party controlled by the establishment. Democrats have as much control by a relationship with the people who lead our party on the Republican side as Republicans who are patriots do. And that's the real shame. It's absolutely horrendous. Also, our chairman is just so feckless and disorganized that they can't even be corrupt in a positive way. You know, they can't even keep it together. They can't even keep their sham together. But listen, let me show you here. This is the response that I got from Evan Power when I made my little video talking about our REC elections. He said, number one, we warned the FRA for nearly a year. And in response to that, who the hell do you think you are? You're talking about Americans, in some cases, some who have fought for their country, that we have, every single one of us has the right to do whatever we like. That's the why we live here. We're not Ellen DeGeneres who leave to the UK. We're here on purpose, and this is our country, and these are our God-given rights, not Evan Power-given rights. And number two, it says, don't ever mention my child again. Thank you. What I said about his child was, don't bring shame to your family, Evan. Be a man of honor. Have some integrity. Don't bring shame to your family, and don't bring shame to your son. And you know what? I speak to the same thing. I have a son, too. I have 5 kids. And every day I wake up and I try to make sure I don't bring shame to their name. It's why I've never given into the bribes. It's why I've never given into the threats. I'm going to fight every single day to bring honor to my family. Try it out, Evan, and see if you like it. Well, listen, I appreciate you all very much for being on. There's a couple people who couldn't come on. They had different engagements, but there's a lot more. And I think that we're going to continue this conversation. It needs to continue. It needs to. Please like and share the show. Ask any of your friends if they can be involved in the next show. I think that we're going to have a follow-up again. We're going to watch this. We're going to continue keeping this story alive. Make sure that you talk to all of the leaders. Make sure that especially on X, that you're communicating with Senator Marco Rubio, with Senator Scott, with Governor DeSantis, and we continue. Even Elon Musk, even Lara Loomer, everyone, absolutely everyone. We keep it alive and in the air.
There are some definite positive signs. Alex Newman has picked up on this. He's recognized what's going on. He invited Evan Power, Bill Helmick, and Lou Marin to go on his show.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll see.
That's what it's going to take is people like Alex Newman, Laura Loomer, these people getting involved and recognizing what's going on and bringing attention to it,
Yes. Has anyone considered contacting the contributors to the RPOF? I'd like to know if they think that this is a good use of their contributions.
Well, I know here in Osceola County, they're as crooked as can be, and they're the ones pulling the strings. So contacting them would be like,
the thing is, here's a story that is for a future date. So a lot of these donors, they're giving money to PACs that they have no idea that money is being used to elect rhinos and Democrats. And it is for example, through Ramba. I know some of his organs, some of his PACs, they've taken money from, let's say, an eye doctor. He gives money to his PAC, which is a Doctors Association for Ophthalmology. And then they use that money. They'll donate $25,000 from that PAC unknowingly to those doctors, send it to a different PAC, and wash it over and over and over again through a PAC so that nobody knows what that money came to. And I guarantee you there's a night doctor somewhere not knowing that he donated $1,000 or $5,000 or $20,000 to elect somebody as crooked as some of the people that we are electing.
Correct.
Let me disclose one more thing. It's not everybody, because I know that there are some legislators who are really good people, people of faith, people of honor, people of integrity. I know some of them, some of them in Central Florida, some of them out there on the coast. These are really good. Bernie Jacques, for example, I don't mind mentioning his name. One of the absolute best people. I would trust him. You know, if I were having a fire in my house, handing my daughter over to him, I would have zero concern whatsoever. He's a super good man, and I trust him with my life, my kids' lives. That's the kind of leader that we need in the state of Florida. And then on the other side, you have people like who are running for the GOP leadership, like Dean Black, and I don't trust him. I wouldn't buy a used car off of him. And this is the problem, is that how do you marry those two extremes, right? How do you have people who are like these lobbyists that we're working with? How do you put a chairman who's working at a lobbying firm? And I'm not being like super idealistic. I'm just saying we can have good people. You can have people of honor in these positions. That's not unreasonable. And I think that we need to get there. Well, listen, everyone.
We
Melissa,
do have one more clip if we want to play it, John.
Let's play it.
This was our REC meeting on Tuesday night.
So the funny thing is that half of the people in the room are not members. The ones that are even seated, half of those people are not members. And half of this group of people are members. And they're still throwing some people out. So we're going to see what he says.
So we've tried to hold the meeting and restrict it to members only, but there's lots of people that refuse to leave. And the Sheriff's Department has been really great trying to encourage people to leave. They've contacted their sergeant, and they're going to bring in several other people to actually do trespass warrants against everyone. And I really don't want to go through that. Because we don't need to have all this division within the party. So I'm going to
You create the division, Mark. You're the division.
John,
You're the division, Mark. You did this. This is 2 years in a row that you stole an election. 2 years of an election. 2 years. 2 years. 2 years. 2 years.
But anyway, we're going to cancel tonight's meeting, and we'll make announcements at a later date on what we can do when. But there will be no election tonight. And
this whole thing is a sham. It's corrupt.
One last thing. Where's Paul at? Is Paul still around? Paul Owen? Okay. Yeah, we had quite a few people leave. But anyway, thank you all for coming out tonight, for being members and supporting the party.
Yeah, he was looking at the end for one of the big money owners, Mr. Owens there, right?
To be there, yeah.
No.
Probably to say thank you for having these cops here. Well, it's incredible. I know that we can do better. That was a small victory here in Osceola County where they weren't allowed to have this sham election. And hopefully that happens at every single time, every single meeting across the state, wherever they're trying to steal them. Oh, let me let you guys back in. Sorry about that, Lacey. So listen, thank you all for coming this evening, for spending an evening with us, a Friday evening especially. We're going to keep following this story, and we hope that you continue to push. Let us know how we can help you. Any issues at your REC, feel free to reach out, and we'll be glad to have a show about it and air the grievances. This is the largest show that we've ever had. We've had more live people watching tonight than we have ever had on any show. This is a matter of interest. People care about this. People do not want to be represented by a party that has zero integrity. There's no difference between what the Republican Party of Florida is doing here in our local RECs and what the Democrats are doing in Arizona, in Maricopa County, in California, or across, in the federal elections. It's the same exact thing. And if we can't ask ourselves to hold a proper election and deal with the results, how are we going to continue to fight with the Democrats over election integrity? It's a sham. It's a sham. So thank you. God bless you all. Stay with us. This has been Unsanctioned Florida. Stay with us. We'll be here next week to do an Unsanctioned America and Unsanctioned Florida on the regular scheduled evenings. Thank you, guys. God bless you. Have a great night.
Bye, John.
Please like and share.
Bye, John.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.